Well, if you haven't checked out the article on The Athletic, I hope you're able to click on over to it while you're listening to us. It is titled Woody Johnson's Jets, Madden Ratings, a Lost Season, and the Most Dysfunctional Place Imaginable. Mike Silver, Zach Rosenblatt, and I put together this story. And if you listen to the last episode, we really gave you a full breakdown of the piece, what we reported on, how it all came together. But I thought it would be fun really to share some of this with you. And really, I want to get your reaction and just have you ask some questions. So after you read the piece early this morning, what stood out to you? You want to rip through some thoughts, ideas, and how you think the Jets can go forward?
Yeah, so I knew you were working on something. You kept this like close to the vest and really didn't tell me anything, which, you know, whatever. It's fine. I thought we were tighter than that. But I'm going into work at, you know, I leave at 3:30 every morning to drive up to LA to go to my Fox show. And at like 3:45, I get one of our guys on the show that sends it to the group text, right? Jeremy, he's like, "It's out." I'm like, "Oh God." So
I think it was, "It's alive."
Yeah, it's alive. Yeah, that's it. It's alive in all caps too. And so I was like, "Oh, okay. Guess I got to read this now." And so I just read it and I reread it because when I first read it, I felt like I was living in some alternate universe because I'm like, this just I hadn't heard of any owner ever doing something like this. Like it sounded too crazy to happen, right? And then the more I thought of it, I'm like, well, actually, no, it fits like Woody Johnson and the Jets like sort of perfectly. Just the last 14 years, like, and just the issues that they've had on that team. And so obviously, like, as I'm going through the article, the first one, it's in the title. It's like the Madden ratings. And I'm like, well, how does he even know what Madden is? Because he's an old guy. And I'm like, well, then his sons, and then like he really uses the Madden ratings. And I kept reading, and sure enough, he used the Madden ratings again, like to evaluate more players. I'm like, in what world does an owner think that a video game is the end all be all when you hire the smartest people in the world? Joe Douglas, I don't care what you say about him or what you think about him, and I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about everyone in general. He can evaluate talent. He's one of the better talent evaluators and drafters of this era, in my opinion. I think he's a really good talent evaluator. And then you use a video game? Like, that was, to me, it was like, I couldn't wrap my head around that, if that makes sense.
I think that's what makes it hard sometimes when you do stories involving teams like the Jets, when you uncover information like this. It's not that people don't believe you. It's the information is so unbelievable, right? So
I think you're one of the most trustworthy journalists that I know, and you do your research better than anyone I know. And so, like, it wasn't even like you were saying. It's not like I didn't believe it. It's just wrapping my head around it. You know what I mean?
No, and I appreciate that. And I'm watching a lot of people digest this, and they want to believe it's fake, I think, because it's so ridiculous. It's so out of the ordinary. Think about how much money, time, and work is put into these organizations. Every decision is picked at and dissected, and yet in the end, when the Jets have an opportunity to improve their roster and they are negotiating with the Denver Broncos, and they've had the conversations, the football people were doing their work, right? Joe Douglas was talking to Denver's GM. This is what we're doing. This is what this is going to look like. And the Denver Broncos didn't want Alan Lazard in the trade package. They just wanted more draft compensation, and they were trying to knock that out and figure out a way around this. And the negotiation just quickly went away, and the Jets were out. And we came to find out that the reason why the Jets so abruptly ended the negotiation was because Joe Douglas had to get the sign off from Woody Johnson to make that trade go down. And Woody said no. And it had everything to do with the conversation that they had previously when they were watching film of Jerry Jeudy, that Madden rating just wasn't good enough in his eyes.
But like, that's the thing. It's like, it's a really good player who has, I think he has 1,000, or he's going to get close to 1,000. He has a 1,000-yard receiver. You don't think that like the Jets could have used that with Aaron Rodgers? Like, first of all, speed guy wasn't used properly in Denver, in my opinion. Then Denver doesn't want to get him. Now he's a 1,000-yard receiver with Deshaun Watson and James Winston. What do you think you could have done with Aaron Rodgers?
Exactly. So that was definitely one part of it. The other was, and I think as somebody who really values the draft and understands how important the research is done and put into finding the right players to build what you're trying to accomplish here, the Mr. Irrelevant detail to me,
Okay,
that one blew my mind. And
yeah, I'm glad you said that.
okay, so do you want to explain a little bit of what stood out to you in that?
Yeah, so that was literally my next thing I mean, the Madden was obviously mind blowing, but so I mean, Woody wanted a worse draft pick so he could pick Mr. Irrelevant because he thought that they were going to get lucky and get Brock Purdy. So they offered 256, pick 256. And Woody went back and said, I want 257. Now the player they had at 257 is no longer even on the roster. And the pick that the Broncos had at 256 is now on the active roster. Like
on the active roster.
But first of all, just hold on. Like Brock Purdy, you don't find quarterbacks at Mr. Irrelevant like ever.
But you don't have to pick last to get Brock Purdy.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, wouldn't you rather what if the Broncos would have taken the pick that the Jets wanted? So, like, I've never heard in my entire life, and I've been through a lot of organizations, I've been with a lot of GMs. I know a lot of GMs that are in my cell phone wanting worse compensation for something is drastically unheard of. Like, what was your reaction when you first got that information and started reporting on it?
So you've known me a long time now where I think I have moments where I think I'm decent and I'm okay smart. I call it medium smart. But you also know I have got some ditzy moments. So I'm very comfortable with when I'm talking to people. If I don't understand the concept, if I don't understand what's being told or shared with me, anything specifically with football, I will speak up and I go, no, I don't get that. Why would, So when this story was told to me, I actually remember I was standing in my closet, of all places. I was like, I am sorry, I don't understand it. And the reason why I didn't understand it was because the decision making by the Jets here was so stupid, my stupid brain couldn't even fathom it. Like, I couldn't wrap my head around it. I'm like, so he wanted the worst pick? And so when I was first told the story, I was like, this is so bonkers to me. And obviously, as you know, when you do these stories, we're The Athletic, we work for the New York Times. We do not one source anything. Everything has to have multiple. And in most cases, especially in regards to transactions and things involving two organizations, agents, players, you have to get it. You have to get it from a lot of different people. So I that was sort of my homework after that moment of trying to find out what the real story was. And the real story was the original story that was told to me. And that to me just speaks to the importance of the PR to all this. I know teams that don't want Mr. Irrelevant because they don't want to deal with it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's more like dealing with it.
Right? And here are the Jets like, yeah, we want Mr. Irrelevant because that's where we can find our Brock Purdy. It's not great.
That's stupid. The other thing too. Hold on, I got one more thing. Can I tell you this? This one really blew my mind. Yeah, then we'll move on. But this one I wanted to get this in. Joe Douglas, former GM. The quote, "I answer to a teenager," blew my head off because and he's talking about Woody's sons, correct? Brick and Jack.
Correct.
So, to me, when you have an owner involved in the football business of things, that's bad ball. I can't tell you one good team I've been on where the owner has been like, let's draft this guy, and let's do that guy, and let's do the. They're completely removed. But now you have not only, look, you have only the owner, but then you have his two sons in meetings talking about, like, you should do this, you should do that. Tell me about that situation because that's crazy to me. Yeah.
So we've seen owners' kids be part of organizations. I see it all the time where they're on the sidelines with them, they're in the suite, they're around it. It's what their father or mother, it's what they're doing. That's not the problem. The problem is allowing influences from your children who have nothing to do with football.
Yes.
And the sentiment around the Jets facility, not just this year, but in years past, has been that Woody Johnson's sons have way more juice than you would think from teenage boys, from boys who aren't even at the legal age to drink alcohol, are giving football advice to their dad. And maybe that's what Woody Johnson's okay with. Maybe he wants to hear from his sons because he just likes to collect intel and info from everybody. But when your decision makers and your coaching staff and the players feel that the kids have more say than the people that are supposed to be running the football, that's where the problem is. And
I can't help but think, I mean, what you just said was mind-blowing and so true. But how does this affect current and former head coaches that are vying for the New York Jets job? Like this article, the only thing I could think about, and no one's really talking about it, is like, I don't want to go coach there. If there's other teams available, I'm going because of the owner. Because this is non-starters for most guys, right? Head coaches.
Right before we hopped on the call, I was on the phone with an owner, not Woody Johnson, an owner of another team who wanted to talk about the article, about mistakes that the Jets have made that he wants to make sure he never does. Which right there, that tells me that's an owner that wants to be amazing, right? Right? Like, what did they do? Like, we went through the piece. And he really highlighted to me the importance of making sure the coaches that want to get in football are not just looking at the quarterback, that the owner has to be in line with what you want and what you do and where you want this to be. I think a lot of coaches and GMs enter the New York Jets realm and think they can be the ones to change it. I'm going to be the one to fix it. I think Robert Saleh had that belief. I can make this guy believe in me and have him back down and let me run the football. I think Rex Ryan thought that. I think Eric Mangini thought that. I think Adam Gase thought that, right? All the coaches of the previous years, all Herm Edwards, really smart men that I have known I know all of them. And they have all over the years alluded to the fact that ownership has made this very challenging to get done what you want to get done. So in regard to your question, what's next now, right? I think the people around Woody Johnson are going to have to be the ones here to sit with these candidates and sit with Woody and go, maybe this was good for us because now we can tell Woody the cat's out of the bag. They know the secrets. They know what's out there. We've controlled it as much as we can. We've kept it in the building. This didn't get out, and it's out. And I believe this is just a piece of it. I think there's way more. There's always more. And so I think this could be a good thing. This could be a moment where maybe Woody goes, what I'm doing is not working. The way I believe this isn't working. And I don't think there's a bad human being in there. I don't think Woody's a bad guy. We've talked about Dan Snyder before. Dan Snyder was a bad man. Woody Johnson's not a bad guy.
Do you think that in 5 years from now that we're going to be looking back on this and saying that Diana Marie Rossini galvanized the New York Jets and made Woody Johnson change?
Oh, God. I'm laughing because that's ridiculous. The New York Jets don't want my name connected to anything with them. No, I think that this could let's hope for their sake and for their search committee right now that this is going to help them. But obviously the story like Mike White and all the other anecdotes in the piece, and you can check it out at The Athletic right now.
Please
leave your comments too under the article, or of course if you're listening or watching here on YouTube. Chase and I love to read, especially on YouTube, the comments that you guys have and the questions, and maybe next show we'll address some of them. But I know these are the stories where, like, even just friends in my life, Jets fans, Patriots fans, they're all texting me. Everybody wants to know more, and I'll just kind of wrap this up with, I think it's really difficult in 2024, soon to be 25, to trust media. I get it, but when you have reporters of quality like a Zach Rosenblatt and truly a sports journalist like Mike Silver, who's been doing this for 3 decades, has done over 70 Sports Illustrated covers in his career. you get this right.
And you.
We don't, you don't need the clicks. You're here to do journalism, and that's what we were doing. Thanks for tuning into Scoop City. If you want to hear more, make sure you like and subscribe. We drop our new episodes every Tuesday and Friday.